Hello and welcome to the MAC weather page for this Wednesday, March 8th, and high wind warnings across all the MAC area. We'll have sustained winds beginning later this morning, around mid-morning or late morning. I think we'll see our winds increase to 35 to 45 miles per hour sustained, and we'll see gusts up to around 60 miles per hour. If we look at the headlines for the day, obviously as an Arctic front pushes through, we're going to mix down some pretty powerful winds. And I suspect that we could see quite a bit of power outages across lower Michigan, especially across the southern half. And again, if you're out there, if you don't need to get out and about today, I wouldn't do it. There's going to be a lot of branches and tree limbs and maybe even some weak trees that could topple today. So not the greatest situation, especially I think for younger kids. I wouldn't have them go outside too much today. If we look at the graphic upcoming here, it's going to be a Wednesday, as Pooh would say. So again, take caution if you're outside today, and if you really don't have to go anyplace, I wouldn't do it. And if we look at the next screenshot, the normal for the day, our normal high is 38, the normal low is 20. And if we look at the highest and warmest temperatures across the lower 48 yesterday, the warm spot, 89 degrees at McAllen, Texas, and Edinburgh, Texas, rather, that should have been Texas. And the cold spots, -4 degrees at Bryce Canyon, Utah, and Presque Isle in Maine. If we look at the conditions currently out there, temperatures in the upper 30s to low 40s, the winds are beginning to kick up as that we've seen a wind gust here in the last hour of around 32 miles per hour over at Newaygo, and that's not normally one of our windier spots due to its station being down by the river there in quite a low area. Don't often get some very strong winds there, so that just shows you how strong these winds are coming in right now. And you can see on the 2-meter wind field, our winds are currently out of the southwest, but once we begin to shift it to the west-northwest, we're going to see those winds really howl as they come through Wisconsin into Michigan. And if we look at the next shot, you can see on the satellite that very powerful storm off to our northwest, which has got a pretty strong circulation, very strong winds, a couple thousand feet off the ground, about 55 to 60 knots. And again, as those mix down, as we get some sunshine, you notice this black line I draw. That's about the far southern extent of this cloud cover. Where you see more clouds, there'll be a little bit less mixing. So again, from about this line, from around Ludington over towards Aranac County, the Bay Area, and over towards London, from there south, that's where we expect the strongest winds. I predicted that Henderson will see our strongest wind of all of our weather stations. I'm giving them about a 61-mile-an-hour wind gust, so we'll see how close I am on that. If we look at the weather map this morning, you can see that secondary, that polar front getting ready to come through the area. And again, behind that, some very strong winds. It's very dry, so we don't expect any precipitation, mainly clouds all across the north and maybe a few snowflakes, but no big deal. And then by tomorrow, that front will be off to our south. We're going to have a series of low pressure systems move off to our south, keeping most of the snow well off to our south. But we're starting to see signs that maybe as we get into early next week, we thought that system would stay well south. It looks like it may creep far enough north where much of the MAC area could see some light accumulations of snow, and some of the models, the European and the Canadian, would actually give us about 1 to as much as 4 inches of snow across the entire area. And if we look at the forecast map by Friday, again, well south of us will be most of the activity here over the next 7 days for the most part, other than perhaps that system that comes in through the area early next week. You can see the heaviest rainfall will be across East Texas, across the Gulf states, into the Tennessee Valley, and up and down the East Coast. Precipitation further off to the north, what does fall, should be all in the form of snow here over the next 5 to 7 days. And as far as the fire danger out there, you can see Kansas right now in really bad shape, back into Colorado, into Missouri, up into Nebraska rather. So again, very dangerous situation out there. And kind of a secondary note to that, if this were in May, this is the kind of setup that you look for in Michigan. If you're going to get some temperatures in the 90s to 100 degrees, a lot of times we'll do it if we have extremely dry conditions off to the southwest of us where our heat source comes. If we have a lot of moisture and good vegetation, then we have a lot of humidity, but not necessarily a good shot at getting into the mid-90s to low 100s. But again, if this continues here through the spring, then we'll certainly have a chance of some extremely warm temperatures, perhaps here in Michigan as well. If we look at the snowfall forecast, this is off the Canadian. This would be the snow for Monday and Tuesday. You can see a lot of the area picking up 2 to as much as 4 or 5 inches of snow across the area. The European is pretty similar. The GFS has much less snowfall, so we'll have to some time to digest this to see what happens. But it looks like as we get into early next week, we at least have a shot at maybe some accumulating snows. And again, I think much of the MAC area, don't put away your shovels. I think we have a couple more opportunities after that as well before we begin to warm back up again. If we look at the weather watch out there this morning, I goofed up. I didn't get this, but basically the entire MAC area over in Ontario is under a high wind warning. Again, for winds of 30 to 40 miles per hour with gusts to 60 miles an hour. So do take care if you do have to go out. And again, if you don't have to go out today, I wouldn't. Thanks for stopping by and have yourself a great day, and 73s to all.